Lisbon, and Bowdoin as the manhunt for that person of interest, Robert Card of Bowdoin, continues. I will let law enforcement speak to the ongoing manhunt and to their investigation, but Mr. Card is considered armed and dangerous, and police advise that Maine people should not approach him under any circumstances. I continue to strongly urge Maine people to follow the direction of state and local law enforcement amid this ever changing situation. Please, if you see anything suspicious, please call 911. There are still many things we don't yet know about these attacks, but the full weight of my administration is behind law enforcement's efforts to capture the person of interest, Robert Card, to hold whoever is responsible for this atrocity accountable under the full force of state and federal law, and to seek full justice for the victims and their families. We cannot and we will not rest in this endeavor. My administration is coordinating closely with local, regional, and federal officials to respond to this shooting. I have spoken twice with President Biden. I've spoken with Vice President Harris, Secretary of Homeland Security Mayorkas, and Secretary of Health and Human Services Becerra, all of whom have called me last night to express the Biden administration's full and unwavering support and to offer any and all help that we, the people of Maine, might require. The governors of our neighboring New England states and of other states have contacted me to offer aid, and I am sincerely grateful for their friendship and support. We've been in touch with every member of the Maine congressional delegation, all of whom have offered their full support, for which I am also grateful. I also spoke with Mayor Carl Chalene and Auburn Mayor, Jason Levesque last night to reiterate that we are standing by them and that we are ready to provide any help people in these communities need and to deploy all available state resources, including grief counselors and other mental health services. We need to help our communities heal. If you or a person you love needs someone to talk to during this difficult time, please call or text 988 for free and confidential counseling. 988. Look, Lewiston is a special place. It's a close-knit community with a long history of hard work, of persistence, of faith, of opening its big heart to people everywhere. Lewiston is where I worked for years. It's where I met and married my husband and where our girls went to school. I love this place just as I love our whole state with my entire heart. I'm so deeply saddened, as is every one of the 1.3 million people of this beautiful state. This city did not deserve this terrible assault on its citizens, on its peace of mind, on its sense of security. No city does, no state, no people. No words can truly or fully measure the grief of many people today. Our small state of just 1.3 million people has long been known as one of the safest states in the nation. This attack strikes at the very heart of who we are and the values we hold dear for this precious place we call home. All Maine people are sharing in the sorrow of the families who lost loved ones last night. Loved ones, normal people who were killed or injured while unwinding from a day of work or while spending time with their family and friends, socializing. So on behalf of the 1.3 million people of the whole state of Maine, I hold these families and this city in my heart today. I know that the people of Lewiston are enduring immeasurable pain. I wish I could take that pain off your hearts, off your shoulders, but I promise you this, we will all help you carry that grief. I ask many people to join me in offering our comfort to the families and friends who have lost someone, and in offering our prayers for swift recovery for those who are healing in Maine's hospitals today. This is a dark day for Maine. I know it's hard for us to think about healing when our hearts are broken. But I want every person in Maine to know that we will heal together. We are strong, we are resilient, we are a very caring people. In the days and weeks ahead, we will need to lean on those qualities more than ever before. As we move forward, struggling as we may, let us wrap our arms around one another, offer comfort and solace and love. I know the Maine State Police will continue to release information to the public as we confirm it, and information about any steps that the public might take to support the people of Lewiston at this time. May God bless the people of Lewiston and bless the memories of those we've lost. Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Sasha.
Thank you very much, Governor. We certainly appreciate your support. The city of Lewiston does, the state of Maine, and certainly our first responders. We feel that love every day, and thank you very much for that. I would also say that we want to say thank you to really a large number of other elected officials across our state, whether that's the federal delegation, local elected officials, and many others that are part of organizations or law enforcement agencies that truly wanted to join us today at this particular press event. And wanted to speak on behalf of their communities. And as the governor had mentioned, and everybody else will reiterate, our reality for today is that this suspect is still at large. And we want to provide community support for the victims, for the families, in the communities across the state. But we also have an incredibly strong laser-like focus on bringing this suspect into custody and ultimately to justice. So because of that mission for this particular event and today's activities, we're keeping the list of speakers and the agenda pretty tight. And that will include.
Can be quiet. Let me see if I can turn on the.
Up at the podium would be
It's pretty loud
Dave
on my end.
from the city of Lewiston.
I don't know why it
some
keeps
other
going.
members of his command
Volume
staff are
keeps
present.
adjusting.
What I will say to the city of Lewiston.
On my equipment. Sorry, guys.
And you know this because you feel it every day. But you're lucky to have a chief like Chief St. Pierre and his entire law enforcement agency. From every level, those officers put their heart and their soul on the line on behalf of their community last night and into today. And they're doing it for the right reasons. They do it because they care. So the city of Lewiston and truly our co-responder family across the state of Maine is lucky to have Dave and his team in the mix with us. And we're also going to hear from Colonel William Ross from the Maine State Police. And Bill will highlight some of the timeline things that you're probably concerned about and certainly interested in from a story perspective. So the Colonel will come up and speak to that. And we'll also have Jody Cohen. And Jody is the special agent in charge for the FBI out of the Boston field office. And Jody will highlight some of those federal partnerships and some of the things that our federal partners are bringing to the table, bringing to bear to help us with this investigation. We also have a bunch of people here. Once you start naming people, you're going to have a problem because you're going to forget somebody or screw something up. But I would also tell you that a couple of our other federal partners are here. Kevin Neal, who's the U.S. Marshal for the District of Maine. We also have James Ferguson, and Jim is a special agent in charge from the ATF for the Boston Field Division. They are heavily invested with staff along with the FBI, and we can't thank them enough for all that they're doing on behalf of our state. I would
It's
also
loud
tell
on
you
my
that,
end. I don't
We
know.
are going to close with a brief Q&A, and we're going to try to get some of those questions out there. We appreciate your time, your patience, your professionalism, your partnership at getting this information out. I would think that those questions are going to be brief because, again, we do have a suspect at large. And while you can help us with that, we also need to get back to our teams to push forward on that. So with that in mind, I will be back up to the podium to kind of steer that a little bit. But for starters, I would like Chief St. Pierre to join us.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Sawchuk, and welcome media partners, and thank you, Governor Mills, for those kind words. I'm going to keep this short. What I would like the very most is to express our deepest sympathies to the families and friends of the victims of this heinous crime. This is truly a tragedy that goes beyond comprehension. I'm confident in our community, that our community has and will continue to come together throughout this endeavor to bring this to a successful conclusion. Although difficult, I do ask the public to continue to be mindful of their own personal safety and also that they be patient with the process as much as possible. There is extensive work and attention to detail that goes into such a large-scale investigation. I'm confident in the expertise and professionalism of our investigators and all law enforcement officials that are currently involved. This is an all hands-on-deck approach. We have a great deal of collaboration and resources that have been made available to us. There are far too many to name individually, but I think Director Sawchuk named quite a few appropriately. There are far too many, as I stated, but they are all appreciated more than you know. I want to thank all of our brave men and women of the Lewiston Police Department, Fire Department staff, medical personnel, first responders of any kind that came from far and wide and have come together and continue to work tirelessly in bringing the situation to an end. We hope to locate and hold the person accountable. I think you'll hear next from the state police, who is taking the lead in this investigation. Although that we are working hand in hand with them, I think Colonel Ross will be able to fill you in on a little bit more.
Thank you, Chief. First and foremost, this is an ongoing homicide investigation and search for the person that is responsible for it. We're in the early stages of this investigation, and I just want to let you know we will have updates. We'll be putting some type of a schedule out later on. But again, early stages of a homicide investigation, we want to be careful that we're doing things correctly. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves. I'm going to give you a bit of a timeline here to kind of fill in some of the blanks and give you some of the facts as we know them right now. A lot of this information will then be transferred to the Attorney General's office, as they will be the lead prosecutor, again, in any homicide investigation. Last night, October 25th at approximately 6:56 p.m., the Auburn Communications Center received a 911 call of a male shooting in just-in-time, or the spare time, recreation center in the town of Lewiston, located at 24 Mollison Way in Lewiston. Shortly after that, at about 7:08 p.m., the Communications Center received multiple 911 calls about an active shooter inside of a Schmenge's Billiards at 553 Lincoln Street in the town of Lewiston. A large law enforcement response from multiple surrounding agencies assisted the Lewiston Police Department in trying to identify who this individual was and what was happening. As you can imagine, this was a very fast-paced, fast-moving, very fluid scene, very dangerous scene that these guys and girls were going into. 18 people are now deceased at this time.
18
The victims
confirmed.
at the just-in-time establishment,
18 has been
7
confirmed.
people are deceased there, 1 female and 6 males, all from an apparent gunshot wound. Victims at the Schmegley's Billiards, 8 are deceased.
8.
7 males inside the establishment, 1 male outside of the establishment. Again, also apparent gunshot wounds. Multiple people were transferred to area hospitals, Central Maine Medical Center, St. Mary's, and Maine Medical Center. 3 people that were transferred to those hospitals are deceased, for a total of 18 people deceased at this time. The investigation into the person responsible for this identified a vehicle located at the Przebscott boat landing in Lisbon. That person, through the registration of that vehicle, was identified, it's been stated earlier, as a Robert Card, born in 1983. Several of the deceased have been identified, and their families, next of kin, have been notified. Approximately 8 people at this point have been identified.
Let's
10
keep those
people,
families
10
in
of
our
these
prayers.
victims still need to be identified at this time. Currently, there is an arrest warrant for 8 counts of murder for Mr. Card. And the reason it's 8 counts because 10 people have not yet been identified. As those people are identified, the counts will probably go to the total of 18. He should be considered armed and dangerous. Based on our investigation, we believe this is someone that should not be approached. This is someone that should be, if you come into any contact with this individual or someone that you think looks like this individual, you were to call 911, and I'll provide some tip line numbers at the conclusion of my briefing. Lewiston Police Department, federal, state, county, and other local municipalities are involved in a coordinated search at this moment for this individual. So there's the ongoing investigation, and there's a search to apprehend this person. Both happen simultaneously. I can't stress this enough. This is an ongoing investigation in the early stages. More information will come out in conjunction with the Attorney General's office as the lead prosecutor. We can't share all of our information right now, and I'm sure you understand that. I'm going to give out 2 numbers that go to a tip line. 911 is also appropriate for this, but if anyone can call these 2 numbers, this would go to the state police tip line.
Somebody write these down.
Area code 207 213 9526. 207 509 9002. And we'll be sending something out later that has that information in it if you weren't able to grab that now. Again, this is a very fluid situation. We have a lot of resources, as Chief St-Pierre had mentioned earlier, that are on the ground in a coordinated effort to apprehend this individual. We've notified the Department of Education, and they have determined what they're going to do with the schools. A lot of schools, area schools, were shut down today based on our conversation with them. Again, as more information comes in, we'll be providing it to you. Thank you for your time. This is a very difficult time for, I think, the community of Lewiston, difficult time for obviously the victims' families. And it's a tough time for law enforcement. It was a rough night last night, but we're committed to bringing whoever's responsible this to justice. And again, we are currently looking for Mr. Card right now, someone that we'd like to apprehend. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel. And FBI Special Agent in Charge, Cohen, if you could join me, please.
Thank you. My name is Jody Cohen. I'm the Special Agent in charge of FBI Boston Division, which covers the state of Maine. Our hearts go out to everyone who is impacted as a result of the senseless violence. The FBI is working hand in hand with our law enforcement partners. Our evidence response team is here processing the very extensive scenes. We are providing investigative and tactical support, as well as our victim specialists are working with those affected by this tragedy. As this very active investigations continues to unfold, we're asking the public to stay vigilant and come forward with any information that you might have that you feel is helpful to our investigators. My pledge is that the FBI will carry out this investigative case with rigor. We will work day and night alongside our law enforcement partners to get the answers to the questions this community deserves. We thank the public for your continued cooperation and patience as we continue to work this very active investigation. Thank you.
Appreciate that. And I would say that the reality here from a resource standpoint is that when we've asked for anything, the answer's been yes, period. Tactical teams, evidence response teams, full-blown investigative units, detective units that have come from multiple states, whether it's the commissioners from Vermont and New Hampshire reaching out to me directly, Massachusetts saying, what do you need, Mike? What can we do for the state of Maine? So we are now prepared to try to take a few questions and keep in mind again that we may not be able to answer as in-depth as you would like, and we don't plan on taking a great deal of questions. I think follow-up press events will allow for that. Sir?
No one has really talked about the weapon that was used here, the AR, style, so someone can talk about that. But the other thing here is there are reports that this individual had mental health issues, that he made threats to shoot up the National Guard. So clearly there were some signs here that he was on someone's radar. The question becomes, why was he in possession of this weapon? And certainly, why
Great
wasn't he
questions.
stopped soon?
Yeah, I think those are all valid questions, and certainly questions that we are looking into now, but not questions that we can answer today. Considering that this occurred last night, there's still an active search for the suspect in question. So I can appreciate those questions, but not something we're going to be able to answer right now.
Good response. Good response.
It is certainly one of those things that we want to follow up on, all aspects of that. Go ahead, right here. Yes.
Can you give us a sense of the ages of who has died, how many are under 18 and how many are over 18?
I'm not sure we have that information with us today. We wanted to break it down by gender because that's something we had readily available. We did not break this down into age ranges at all.
This is sad, guys.
Can you tell us about the background suspect in this case, or I should say the person of interest, because I noticed the language is very clear. We're saying person of interest, not suspect. So why use that terminology?
Yes, I had that same question.
Yeah, I think we used person of interest last night for half of the room that was here for that press event. As the colonel had mentioned, there is now arrest warrants for murder
Okay.
for this particular individual, Mr. Carr.
He's officially
So
a
he is viewed
suspect.
as a suspect, and there is a full court press by all of our partners to bring him into custody. What was the second piece of that question?
What can you tell us about his background? She wanted to ask a second ago about the idea that he had voiced concerns about his own mental health, right? Had been committed, according to language in the police bulletin, to a mental health facility for weeks. How could someone that fits that profile
For weeks.
possession of semi-automatic weapons?
Well, I do think that the statutes around firearms and the possession of those are pretty complex. I know that we will be reviewing that information as we move forward, but that's not an answer that we're prepared to give today. Because that leads to motive. You're talking about behavioral health issues and how that impacts this situation. I would expect you'll hear back from us on that in the future. Right here, sir.
Yeah, I've got a question about, we've seen helicopters as far north as on this. Can you tell us anything about what's leading you, that far north of the scene where you come from?
Yeah, sure. So we have law enforcement assets that are deployed over a number of communities doing follow-ups on a number of different things. So as you can imagine, there's a great deal of search warrants that we're following up on. We do have partners, that helicopters from the New Hampshire State Police. That copter was here last night to assist us as well. So whether we have tactical elements out or we're searching an area, some of those air assets would be very, very valuable for us. So that's what they're doing. We're not going to speak to what brings us to a specific community one way or the other. Yes, ma'am. Right here.
Identifying the unidentified victims, what are people encouraged to do? Is there DNA being, tested from family members who may have missing loved ones? Like, what's that appropriate?
Good
Yeah,
question.
so we did have a family a reunification center open last night. We do have behavioral health liaisons that are fully engaged to work with families and work with loved ones and work with victims for that matter that may be in the hospital and seeking treatment. So those things are actively occurring. We are dealing with each one of those situations separately. So do we need DNA on that? Are we just waiting to find a loved one, some kind of family member that we can make a notification? I think that varies across the board. I'm going to take two more questions. I'm going to take two more. Right here. I think we're always concerned around motive. That you say triggering event, that's a motive for us. Again, that's not something we're prepared to discuss today, but I do appreciate the question. It's clearly something that's important. One additional follow-up from you. I think that does speak to motive, so I appreciate the follow-up, but not something we're going to be prepared to answer today. And I have one more question right here, sir. Right here.
Can you say, first off, to clarify, with the arrest warrants issued today, and can you say if Carr is still in the state or if he's still alive?
Good question.
Well, we're actively searching for them. If I knew the answers to those questions, and this would be a different press conference, I would assume. So we don't know his location, and I'll leave it at that. And we are working with the Attorney General's office reference to those verifications. So with that in mind, we're done taking questions for now. So we are going to actually take off at this point. Thank you very much for being here. I appreciate that.
Thank you, everyone.
Have there been any titles? We've not really gotten any answers. So,
Thank you.
All right, guys. So we've got the press conference. That's done. Let me try to get that off before it moves over. Lots of information, still very unclear about the information. I did have an opportunity to look into the mental health aspect. When we were here earlier, one of the things, because so much information, this is the problem when these cases break. If people are focused on it, like say last night when I was watching JS for Justice, I should have probably been doing some research, because when I got up this morning to do that research, there was mountains and mountains and mountains of additional articles and things, a lot of them mimicking the exact same information. So it's so the mental health stuff I didn't see. Somebody has since sent that to me, and I want to read that to you guys if you give me just a second. So we are all up to date on what was distributed around related to the mental health, because it was distributed, and it was distributed by law enforcement, I believe. Oh crap. I think we have too many things in this thing now. I can't find it. Give me just a second, guys. I think it might be this one, possibly. No. Okay, here. I think this is it. Yes, this is it. So this is what we had, and this came out, what's today, the 26th? This came out yesterday on the 25th, and we know that this happened, this was going on later in the afternoon, so this would have had to been in the evening that this was most likely released. It says, Maine State Police, this is from Maine Information and Analysis Center. It's a government agency. And it says active shooter. Maine State Police is attempting to locate Robert Card. Now, remember, this was yesterday. This is not updated information. This is older information. And anybody that has information related to where Robert Card might be, or if you've seen anything, if anything's suspicious and you were out there, I'm having some internet issues. I do apologize. But anything that is out there, please reach out to those numbers. Obviously, 911, you can call that, but that's really left for emergencies. So if you have a tip, a legitimate tip, and we talk about that on here all the time, don't be calling in speculation or anything like that. They need legitimate tips. If you're not in the area and you have no information specifically about this case, please do not use those numbers. Okay, so it says that Card is trained firearms instructor, believed to be in the Army Reserves, stationed out of Saco, Maine. So he was in the Army Reserves. According to law enforcement, Card recently reported mental health issues, to include hearing voices and threats to shoot up the National Guard base in Saco, Maine. Card was also reported to have been committed to the mental health facility for 2 weeks during the summer of 2023 and subsequently released. So that was recently. Card was last known to be operating a Maine registration white Subaru Outlander with a black bumper. We know that that's in the possession of law enforcement, and that was found in Lisbon. Then we have the subject should be considered armed and dangerous. Caution should be used. And again, that's just telling you now, we know now that this recent summer, Card was actually in a mental health ward for wanting to use violence and other things. He was becoming a harm to himself, a danger to himself and a danger to others. And it sounds like he was there inpatient for a couple weeks. That is That is a huge problem for me because inpatient, when you go to mental health stuff, you really have to have some really significant issues going on for them to keep you for a 3-hour Baker Act, let alone 2 solid weeks. Okay, I just want to let you know that's extensive. That's saying that there's a real big problem here. A lot of people are assuming, and listen, it's a great assumption. So I'm not knocking the people. I assume it too. I'm not saying that I don't assume this to be true, but we have to also step back. Okay, we're all assuming that this is somehow a mental break or something related to his mental health because he was just recently in a mental hospital. That may or may not be true. We're assuming, that's an assumption we're making, a good assumption based on good relevant information in recent timing. So that's what's leading most of us to believe that this is most likely a mental health break. But there's something that created that mental health break, and I really believe it's a financial matter. I think there's a major financial matter. There's something that has to do with military as well. There's something that he's angry with the military because he at first wasn't going to shoot up the where was it? The bowling alley, and what was the other one? Did I write it down? I know it's in one of our reports, but the was it a restaurant or a bar or something? But he was at one, and then he went over to the bowling alley. They have not released how many children. I have to be honest with you. I did hear personally that there were underage kids that were part of the. Now, that's just what I'm hearing. It doesn't mean that it's true. Okay, I want to make sure that I tell you when I hear something, I'm saying that that's what I'm hearing. There's no corroboration. Otherwise, I would say a statement of fact. That's not a statement of fact. So I'm hearing that there were children among the victims. I don't think they're prepared to deal with the questions that are going to come related to the children. I think that's why they decided to go with the male and female. He gave you a different answer. He gave you a bedside manner answer, but I think that's the reason why. I don't think they're prepared to tell us the true gravity of the victims. I think it's going to be something that's going to be pretty hard for us to swallow, because I did hear that I didn't hear that it was all or a lot. I just heard that there were underage among the victims. And that's the way it was said to me too, among the victims. So that, I mean, that could mean anything. It doesn't necessarily mean they're the victims that are not making it home to their families. That's what I heard. That was the exact words and verbatim that I heard, that children were among the victims. So take that for what you will. What else do we have going on here? So I was taking notes here, and we always caution anybody that's ever seen on this channel as a suspect or person of interest, it is without saying you are to treat them like a rattlesnake. We will never ask you to ever approach anybody that is seen on our show as a suspect or person of interest. So we'll naturally say, do not approach this man. If you see him, get yourself in a safe place and call 911 or call one of the numbers that have been provided, which is 207-213-9526 or 207-509-9002. That's the best way to send legitimate tips. Those are tips that you have firsthand knowledge or secondhand knowledge of. Okay, if Aunt Millie told you a story down the road that they saw so-and-so at so-and-so's house, you try to have Aunt Millie call. But if Aunt Millie's refusing to call, you make the call for Aunt Millie. You see what I'm saying? But don't say, hey, I think that he's most likely going to be in a wooded area. Well, I think that they've already got the speculative stuff under control. They've got hundreds and hundreds of speculators, or people that are speculating right now on their team. So we don't need to add more to that. We can talk about it amongst ourselves and in the chat and have dialogue amongst ourselves. But let's not take that next step and involve law enforcement into those dialogue conversations. We only want to involve law enforcement when we have legitimate tips and leads to provide law enforcement. And that's the only time we want to contact law enforcement. We are here just to advocate and make people aware of the situation and what they can do to help. If you are in this area in Maine, what you can do to help your community, this is it. This is the secret sauce for you guys in Maine. Are you ready? Shelter in place. Lock your door. Okay? Cook a meal. Don't put somebody else in jeopardy. Don't put the pizza man in jeopardy because you don't feel like cooking tonight. If you need to go out to the store, go to the store, get your food. If you don't know how to cook, get yourself a frozen dinner. Spend a little extra buck and get yourself the really good frozen dinner. Okay? Or if you have a family, buy yourself a frozen lasagna. Don't put somebody else in harm's way because you don't feel like cooking. But take care of yourself, lock your door, shelter in place, and please, please, please stay off the streets. Every time you get on the streets in an active situation like this, you're putting yourself in danger, you're putting your family in danger, and you're giving them that opportunity to get further away and out of the grasp of law enforcement. So anybody in this area, okay, anybody in Lewiston, anybody in Lisbon, anybody in those surrounding areas, please just do your community a favor. I know it kind of sucks, but make it fun for the kids, right? Make it a slumber party. Let's find things to make it not feel like you're sheltering in place. I know that children need to get out. They need to get air. They need to find ways to get some of that energy out, because we all know children that have pent up energy, good Lord, right? We're ready to pop their heads. Find ways to keep them active. Set up some games inside that house. You know what? We don't allow our children to run in the house, but we do today, right? We do today because today is a special day for our kids to have fun, right? We're going to do something we'll never do again just for today. It's going to be great, right? So we are going to make things fun for our children inside our homes. We're not going to be ordering food to be delivered to our homes. If we need to go out, make your list. Go out, get your stuff, and get back. If there's nothing open, time for you to call the neighbor and ask for that cup of milk, right? They borrowed the weed eater last week. It's time for them to make the dinner today, right? Okay, so just find things, but I'm trying to make it a little funner for you guys instead of just saying right? But we need to find things fun because we all have children in our homes and they are all they don't understand this. So we need to make it fun for them. So get creative, guys. We get crafts, make stuff up. We have the internet, right? Everybody has paper in their house. Let's start making some crafts. Let's start getting our kids busy. Let's start having, idle hands, right? Busy hands are happy hands, right? Right? So get our kids motivated inside the home with the doors locked. And if you guys do not have a huge security system, but you have some of those rods, my mom taught me a little trick of the trade. You got some of those extension rods, not the ones that are spring loaded. You don't want a spring loaded rod. You need the one that twists. And you twist it in between the frame of your window and the top of your window, and it makes a secure, almost like a security feature where that window can't be lifted. It's kind of cool. My mom taught me a couple things, right? What are moms for? Teaching their kids. Even as old as I am, my mom still teaches Bullhorn Betty a few new tricks, right? So we just want to make sure safety is the key here. This guy is on the loose. I don't know why he's on the loose. I don't know how he got through their perimeter. I don't know how he escaped their grasp. Right now is not the time or the place to be focusing on that right now. We have a crazed man that doesn't mind executing people out there running around in Maine and potentially somewhere else. Some people talked about him potentially going over to Canada. That's a possibility as well. Some have, Maine is there's areas. If you're from Maine and it's like here, I'm from this area. I know there's a lot of secret places after living here my entire life I don't know about, but I know about some, right? He may know about some places in Maine that nobody else does. Like, for example, when we were out there after Brian Laundrie was found, we were out there trying to, no, actually, I think it was before. Was it before he was found? I think it was before. I can't remember. I have to go back and look at the date time on the trip. But we ended up finding an abandoned cabin. I know some people were talking about abandoned cabins early this morning, and it brought that back. Remember that time we were hunting for Brian Laundrie, and we were trying to find out where he could possibly stay, and we came across, listen to this, a cabin in the woods. It was dilapidated. It had holes in the floor, but it was a place with a roof, right? It was shaded in. And here's the kicker. It actually had an old time pump well, hand pump well with water. Yep. So I know for a fact, if this place existed here in my backyard and didn't even know about it, think about how many more are like that. Old places that don't even exist anymore because they were from settlements from years and years, generations, decades. Like it could have been, that house could have been there for, I don't know, since the 1800s, for all I know. It looked like it was from the 1800s. I got to tell you, the stove and the refrigerator, I almost wanted to take because, you know, they're antiques, right? I had never seen a refrigerator like that in my life. So it was old. It was old. So there, I can guarantee, and Maine is old, like their houses are much older. It's just beautiful there. I love their homes. I got to be honest with you. I almost moved to Maine when I was once upon a time back in my 20s when I wanted to run away from home. I'm like, where can I go? I just want to go as far away as I can from this place. They had houses, like I could get a house for like $10,000 there. I'm like, I'm on the road. I'm going. So anyways, guys, I just wanted to give you guys an update, but here's some of the information that we did get. He would not talk about the weapon that was used. We have to remember that this guy is military, so we have to think that he had access to military weapons. Not only that, but he probably had a license to have weapons that we as the public aren't licensed to have. Military, some military levels, even when you retire, you're allowed to maintain certain weapons that you have been properly trained on. They say to call 911, do not approach. They said that this is a simultaneous investigation with an active search investigation. So as they're doing the crime scene investigation, they have teams that are doing the actual search for Robert Card. They didn't go over the weapons. They said that the one guy asked very good questions. I think questions that we all really had about this, with him being at the hospital and being there for 2 weeks, why did he and how could he have had access to guns, especially since he had already previously spoke of hearing voices and wanting to shoot up that army base that he was a reservist for. He was in the Army Reserves. And we just recently heard he retired. And I'm wondering if maybe something went on at that Army where they pushed him out and said, basically you either need to retire or we're going to discharge you. And because he had, and sometimes when you've been there for a really long time, they, believe it or not, whether it's on paper or not, they do provide those types of courtesies. Whether it's allowed or not, it doesn't matter. I don't care. I've seen it myself. I know it exists. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I know it happens. They give them an opportunity to keep all of their benefits and do it the right way, or, fight them on it and lose everything is basically how the conversation goes. So he was in there. We know he had a mental health problem. One thing they didn't talk about, because they wouldn't talk anything about motive, is the financial stuff. I uncovered some financial stuff, guys, and it didn't look very good. And it comes right on the heels. Listen to this. So we're hearing that he retired. Now, I don't know if he retired. I don't know the situation on how he is now no longer part of the Army or when that happened. He may have been a 20-year person, 3 years ago. And I don't know. It's very unclear about that. And I don't want to speculate on that aspect. But what we do know is that he was having some financial problems as soon as July, and we're hearing that he was in the hospital for several weeks in September. So it really sounds like whatever happened triggered this financial thing. So I'm trying to think of how this would play out, and I don't know if I'm even close or right on the money, but it almost seems like maybe he was forced out of the Army, which caused this whole financial issue because they get money being a reservist, a monthly stipend. So I'm wondering if that caused this horrible financial wave to hit him very quickly, and which had him spin out of control. Maybe he had some underlying mental health stuff that was kind of, underlying and didn't really rear its ugly head until this major stressor came on, or maybe a few major stressors where it felt like his life was going to shambles, and it might have triggered a psychotic episode, which led him to the 2 weeks at the mental facility, and now we're here. But there's definitely some significant financial issues that I'm seeing in the background that are really, and then I found out that he was living with his mother to boot. And it really just kind of put a whole different type of situation on this, where I think that's really the motive. I think it was like a chain reaction, but definitely a clear spiraling effect from where he was to how he got here. And it's clear as day too. And when law enforcement starts breaking it down, you'll start seeing it too. It started happening, and just gradually, they knew that he was capable of this, and it's so hard in these situations, when things like this happen. It's so easy for people like me and people like you to sit up here and say, well, they would have just did this, or if they would have just done that. It's so easy, but we also have to think of that's for this particular scenario. What about the next person? For example, if we were to say that anybody that had mental health problems could no longer own weapons, right? If you have any type of mental health issues, you can no longer possess a weapon. Let me ask you, who would then go to a doctor to get help? Because some people, especially people out in the country, their guns, their life. If they can't go out and hunt deer or, turkey, they have no purpose. So we've got to, you can't just eradicate guns altogether, because at the end of the day, people do need them for protection, not just protection from one another. We're thinking most of the people that want these strict gun laws are in city limits. They don't even know what country life is. They don't even know what it's like to look at a grizzly bear. When those city folks have to look at a grizzly bear that's ready to maul you, then you can talk to me about how we don't need guns, right? I'm sorry. It's the truth. That most of these people have never seen a wild animal in the wild in their life, and they just don't understand why country folks are so about their guns. They must be some pretty hostile people in the wild West. It's not like that. We have different threats. We just do. Now, granted, some of them are more leisure, like, the deer hunting, the turkey hunting and stuff like that. But that is also some of those farmers' livelihoods, So, and it's some small businesses' livelihoods, being able to go out there and hunt your fresh turkey, Can you imagine that on having a private person making literally farm to table turkey? It's like almost like honey baked, but better, because they went out, got it, cleaned it, cooked it, and all you had to do was pick it up, serve it. That'd be awesome. That's awesome, baby. There's no preservatives or stabilizers in that food. That's chemical free, baby. You know me. I love chemical-free stuff. His mental health. Yeah, his mental health is definitely this is what and we kind of touched on it a little bit. I'm wondering, there are true mental health issues out there. And I really don't know if, I don't know, say doctors, a lot of this is theory-based medicine when it comes to psychology and your brain, because nobody really understands the brain 100%, because nobody can use the brain 100%. So just by that standard alone, there is not one person in this world that, as we speak right now, that understands the brain 100%. Because how can you understand something you've never used 100% of? You don't understand the true capabilities of it. It's big, it's fantastic, it does a lot of magical things. We know we only use a small portion of what our brain is absolutely capable of. But everything when it comes to that is theory-based. It's theory-based. And that's scary stuff. And I keep wondering, what is all this pharmaceutical stuff that we're given as from? I mean, literally, when I had my shots to go into school, I think we had like maybe 9 or 10 vaccinations, something like that. Maybe a baker's dozen, right? A handful, just a small amount of vaccinations. I found out just recently. Call me now. Granted, I don't have kids getting vaccinated here recently. Only you guys with the kids don't know this, so you're going to have to correct me. But I heard that there's something like between 20 and 30 different vaccinations that our children have to have. You guys are putting chemicals in those kids because somebody tells you that your kid needs chemicals. Like I only care about things that are going to kill them. Mumps, measles, chicken pox, tetanus shot, the normal stuff. Like I don't know. I think people, I don't know if this has an effect on it. I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot, it just seems like there's a lot more unstable people in this environment than we've ever had before. And it just feels like it's like almost something in the water. So what's the water? Is it medication? Is it violence on the computer? Is it video games? What's the water? We need to identify what's causing this and try to taper it off as much as possible, because I feel like this is just happening entirely too much. I think we can all agree to that. From the when did Columbine happen? 1996, 1994, 1990 something. It was the late 90s that Columbine happened. We had never really had anything like that. This is all new. This is all over the last 20, 30 years. There's a culture, there's an environment being cultivated, and we need to stop it. I don't know how, because I don't know the problem, right? I can only assume what the problem is. It might be a whole host of things. I may only be looking at one. 1998. Thank you, Freebird. Thank you. So we've definitely got an issue going on in this country. I think that everybody here, we all want the best. I think at the end of the day, no matter where you come from, what your beliefs are politically, your ideology is, your religion, your background, all that stuff, I think at the end of the day, I think what we all want, and it doesn't even matter where you live, right? It doesn't really matter whether you're in Australia, Britain, it doesn't matter. I think we all want the same thing. We want good jobs. We want affordable housing. We want safety, safe streets, safe parks, right? We want to be able to send our kids to higher education. We just want to be able to go to work and do a little more than make ends meet for most of us, right? And we want to have a little more protection than just good enough when it comes to our family and our communities. So I think we're all, and I try to say this all the time, I think we're all in the same boat. We just need to find out what's going to work, but this isn't working. We can't be having people shooting each other up because they're throwing temper tantrums. You know, before when I was growing up, if you threw a temper tantrum, it's basically you throwing yourself down on the floor and kicking and screaming and making a scene, right? It didn't come with body bags. It's getting crazy out there. Can't tag all, so good morning. Oh, it's me, Jen. It's nice to see you. They say join the guard. So here's some information. I'm going to go back up and see if I can read some more information. They said join the guard in 2002, never saw development or never saw deployment, which was big time with a war. May have had issues with military all along. Yeah, that is interesting. Yeah, it is interesting. Yeah, if he served for 20 years and hasn't had any wartime under his belt, it does make you feel like even the military must have known he wasn't a ripe apple. Interesting. Too many people telling us what we have to do. That's true. Yeah, I get it. I get it. We do. We have entirely too many people. Actually, I think that's what creates a lot of this hostility between people, right? Because it's always a competition. You know, in everything we do, it's always a competition. Who's right? Who's wrong? Who has more? Who has less? Who's prettier? Who's uglier? Who's thinner? Who's fatter? Who has a bigger bank account? Who does? Right? It's always a competition. It's always a competition. I don't know if it's the best. I don't know what to say. He seems like he was a hothead. He probably, well, it obviously was. I mean, you can kind of get that vibe off of him just by taking a picture of his, seeing a picture of this man. Outside of him fishing, you didn't really see him happy. He didn't seem like a very ultra happy person. He seemed like a miserable person to be around. And I could be wrong about that. I don't know the guy. I'm just, but it seemed like the only time I saw him smiling was when he was outdoors. I don't know. We'll keep you guys updated on the Bullhorn Betty channel about this. I'm just been monitoring it. I actually wasn't even going to go live with the press conference, but I was watching another channel. They were talking about something else, and I saw the press conference start. I'm like, oh, what the heck? If I'm pulling it up and have to watch it, I might as well watch it with you guys. So anyways, I just wanted to tell you guys, thank you for being here. I love each and every one of you. God bless. Go make it a great Thursday. Don't forget to be kind to somebody. Do an act of kindness for a perfect stranger. In this day and age, we need to be a little kinder out there to our fellow man, right? Love thy neighbor, folks. Love thy neighbor. When did we get away from that? When did we get away from love thy neighbor to, hey, let's shoot up the entire town, So let's show kindness. Let's put an end to the hate by doing an act of kindness for a perfect stranger. And it doesn't have to be much. You know what an act of kindness is? Stopping the car and letting somebody cross the road. Doesn't even cost you a freaking thing. Don't be an a-hole. Doesn't cost you a thing, right? Put a smile on your face, right? Doesn't cost you a thing, right? Don't forget to be, I can't even remember my own damn punchline. I'm not even going to do it. I'm done. You guys have a great day. God bless.
Welcome to the As you wake up in the morning, you want to find the latest, greatest information about criminal cases and have an intuitive conversation about the suspects associated with these cases. Head over to the Bullhorn Betty channel on YouTube. Breaking news right here on the Bullhorn Betty channel. Welcome to the Bullhorn Betty Coffee Club. Enjoy your stay and enjoy your day.